What's up, co-reporters? Welcome back to my channel. It's time for a recap of what went down on 90 Day Fiance Love in Paradise episode 2. Don't forget you can watch the show and many others like it as long as it's on TLC, WeTV, OWN Network, MTV, so many more on Philo. So I do have a link in the description box if you want to sign up for a free trial or if you want to get a full-blown membership, go ahead so you can tune into all of these amazing shows. So shout out to Philo for being a sponsoring partner of this channel. So let's get into what went down, shall we? At the beginning of the episode, we are joined again by Annie, who has decided to go along with Kyle's stupid point system. Remember, she hasn't earned quote unquote a kiss from him yet. She has to have a certain amount of points for that. And if she smokes, if she drinks, if she does things he doesn't like, she loses points towards her goal of getting to kiss this. Her self-esteem is in the gutter. By the way, he seems a little off to me. I think we'll uncover more on that as the season progresses. So Kyle shows up to their evening dinner date. It's by the water. And this reminds me of somewhere I went to when I was in Malta. Malta's a very small island. So I wonder if I was in the same area. It's so beautiful. People are so elegant. And she's wearing this gorgeous dress. She's got her accessories. And then he shows up in the same musty shirt and shorts that he flew in on. And it's like, oh, that's so disgusting, dude. Like, you went home, you didn't shower and change for this like romantic night. So she confronts him about it and he's like, oh, no, I'm American. Americans don't dress up because it's a new country. You guys in Europe, because it's like an older country, you still wear like, you know, nice clothes and like toupees or whatever, because you're stuck in the old ages. But in the new ages in America, we don't dress up. We go out looking like slobs. And I'm like, Kyle, you know damn well that is not true. Okay. Is it true that like your average person in the US or Canada, where I'm from, is more likely to be out in sweats, pajamas, and just like, you know, bonnets, sorry to the bonnet brigade, but damn, than like European people? Absolutely. But I still do think that Americans, Canadians, when appropriate, they will dress up, you know, like to an appropriate job or to an appropriate outing with friends and whatnot. So I felt like that was like a terrible lie for him to try and peddle, which is just completely untrue and like embarrassing for himself. Why is Annie settling so hard for this man? I really don't understand it. Between like the sperm donation addiction and just all this other like kookiness, you can't even bring him out without him embarrassing you with the way he dresses. Then the point system, like, I'm just not understanding what she sees in this man, like, at all. By the way, Annie lost a point for drinking a glass of wine on their dinner date. Like, she's a grown-ass woman having a nice dinner. Why wouldn't she order a glass of wine? Like, what is wrong with that? You know what I mean? Like, it's just such a typical thing to do. Like, it's a nice way to, like, unwind and enjoy your food with, like, you know, a nice wine pairing. Like, what? And by the way, this man, he eats like he has no home training. Like, they were eating, like, noodles and stuff, and he's like... I had to put it on mute from like all the sound effect sounds, and like he'll like eat like this while he's like choking himself too, and like he just has his mouth open, and then his eyes, I'm sorry, but his eyes kind of scare me. They're just like always like wide open. Like, remember when he was doing his sit-ups in like his Airbnb after getting home? He was like this, staring right at the camera, and he can't close them for whatever reason. So he's just looking at the camera like that. So he's just this. And I don't get it, you know, like, Annie, you're a cute girl. Like, you can do better than this entire situation. Like, you know, at this point, like, she's giving me hope because it sounds like she's starting to get the ick, but it doesn't seem like the ick has hit her enough for her to want to walk away from this relationship yet, which hopefully it does before she actually traps herself with this man by virtue of having a child. Meanwhile, in Brazil, Aliya picks Shawn up at the airport, and we find out that they had to rent like a hotel room because she lives with her grandparents. And I'm like, Aliya, be so effing for real. You were like in your 20s. And mind you, when Aliya was Douglas, like Aliya was so hot, you know? You were like this hot 20 something, and you get with like a 60-year-old man, like, and he's not paying your bills. You're still living with your grandparents. No offense, but what's the point of the 60-year-old man for then? Like, I just don't get it. She needs to hit up Madeline to get up on game. Madeline got like $100K out of her man. Madeline's got a luxury apartment. Madeline got free boobs. Madeline got everything that she ever needed from this man, designer clothes, everything. And her man is like in his 30s, you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot less of a, you know, age gap than the age gap between Aliya and Shawn. Like, Aliya, like, stop. You need to get yourself a real sugar daddy, not just one who gets you like $2 packs of extensions, which, by the way, is what Shawn rolled up with. It was nice that he brought all these extensions to show Aliya that he was supporting her in her journey and in her transition and everything like that. But I'm sorry, but there's an old man tax, in my opinion. If you're going to be like, you know, old enough to be my grandparent, you're going to have to pay up. And those $2 extensions are just not going to cut it. Mind you, when we get to this room, we see Aliya walking around with like a baby doll. And she says it's because she wasn't allowed to have dolls when she was younger. Because remember, Aliya, you know, was a male child, and the parents didn't want, you know, their child to have a doll, right? And so she's now saying that this is something that she needs right now, like for her childhood self. I'm like, listen, again, these age gaps, I'm like, how do these like older people not get creeped out? You know, if I were with an 18-year-old boy, which to me is a little boy, even though like it's legally an adult, I couldn't do it because in my head, this is a child, you know, and this little boy was walking around with like a doll or a baby bottle or something, I'd be like, oh God, I gotta get out of here. Like, I would be so turned off. It wouldn't even be funny. I'd be disgusted with myself, to be honest with you. Like, this is just, it's weird, right? It really is. Like, I get the Aliya for like, you know, the childhood trauma or whatever, missing out in your childhood. But like, you know, I don't know, it would make me feel like even older. Like, it would make me feel even more disgusted by the age gap. But I digress. Next up, we are finally introduced to Alex, who I saw a lot of in the previews. She is this therapist, and she's really, really beautiful, to be honest with you. And we're introduced to her via her family and friends and stuff. She's just got a great like gang of women around her, and they're talking about her relationship. So she is in a relationship with like this Italian man named Adriano, who is addicted to threesomes and whatnot. And he keeps trying to pressure her to have one, and she doesn't want one. She's had one once in her life when she was in her 20s because she was kind of curious to see if she's attracted to women. And it didn't turn out that way. It turns out she's 100% heterosexual and doesn't want to explore in that way. But she's continuing on in a relationship with someone who obviously wants that and is not going to relent. And I'm like, girl, aren't you a therapist? Like, you're supposed to teach people how to have boundaries. Meanwhile, you've got like the weakest personal boundaries. Like, girl, you should have walked away a long time ago before getting in deep into this. He's not going to change, just like you're not going to change. You guys are just not right for each other, right? And by the way, she met Adriano on a dating app that she was on while she was visiting Italy, and he's from Napoli. Meanwhile, in Colombia, Luke finally arrives, but as he's going there, he's really nervous because Madeline thinks that it's for permanence, right? Like that he's going to live there for now. But the thing is that he lost his job and he lost all of his investments. Like they like, you know, plummeted and everything like that. So he's broke. And so his trip there is more so to announce to her that he's having serious financial problems. And I feel bad for him, even though he's a passport bro. I feel bad for him just because he was a really nice, generous person. He was someone who really wanted to make her happy. And like, I guess his own insecurities led him to having to find someone, you know, way too young for him overseas and everything like that. But like, I think that like in his heart of hearts, like he is a nice person and he is a good person. And he was like a bon vivant who wanted to share his joys and his like successes with everyone around him. And unfortunately, he doesn't really have that anymore. And like now he's scared that she's not going to love him anymore. And I do find that to be like, you know, traumatizing and sad for him, to be honest with you. Now we get to finally meet, well, I shouldn't say finally because it has only been a couple of seconds, but we meet Alex's boyfriend, Adriano. And by the way, are these people even engaged this season? Because I'm not really hearing this much about planning weddings and engagements. It feels like they're just dating, even though the show's called 90 Day Fiance, but I digress. I think the only people that I know for certain are engaged are Madeline and Luke. The rest, I don't think so. I mean, Annie can't even kiss Kyle until she earns 2 or 3 points, right? How many points do you think an engagement is worth? So anyway, we finally get to meet this Adriano character. He is getting his beard lined up at the barber in Napoli, and he's talking to his friend about his love of threesomes, but of course he only wants them with women. And I just feel like expecting a heterosexual woman to be okay with that is peak misogyny in my opinion. And I don't know how Alex isn't disgusted by this man. He just seems so like chauvinistic to me. And then it's kind of like, okay, well, you love threesomes and you're talking about these are just souls turning into one soul together. Then why aren't you open to threesomes with men? Huh? Why aren't you open to threesomes with men? Riddle me that. Then his friend who had accompanied him to the barber shop asked if the two of them could do a threesome with Alex. And I'm like, the fact that he didn't even shut that down and say that's disrespectful or whatever. He's just like, no, man. I'm like, oh, I would be so humiliated if like someone had the nerve to ask, you know, like someone I'm dating, oh, why don't we have a threesome with her? Like, you know, I'm like some random object, you know, like it's just disgusting. Like these people, so far, all the men on the show disgust me, to be honest with you, right? You've got Kyle, who's just weird all the way around. He can't eat, like, he's just, to me, he's like the ultimate ick. Then you've got Shawn, who's like 60 years old, dating someone young enough to be his granddaughter. Then you've got Luke with his barely legal bride. Meanwhile, he's 30 years old. And now you've got Adriana, who's just like, seems to be like, you know, someone suffering from like an ex addiction and a lack of actual discipline and boundaries and whatnot. And it's just, to me. I'm disappointed that these ladies are settling for these men. To me, these ladies all seem fabulous and like they could do a hell of a lot better. Now, let's get back into the Annie and Kyle dumpster fire, shall we? We continue to watch them eat. And at this point, I had to fast forward on my philo because I just could not, like with the sounds and everything like that. And thank God you could like fast forward without like, you know, losing too much of the plot. Like there's a little preview button to show you like, you know, that you haven't gone too far or whatever. So I was like, okay, let me just stop here and see like what they're talking about at this point. So at this point, they finished their dinner, thank God. And Annie tells us, the audience, that Kyle didn't exactly meet her expectations, like not even a single expectation of their first date, right? Like he eats like a slob, he dresses like a slob, and he's just out here like, oh, you lost a point for enjoying a glass of wine. Like nothing went well about this. So at this point, I'm like, okay, good. She's dumping him on the second episode. Like, you go, girl. But she's like, but for some reason, I'm still so attracted to him. There's something deep down that I love about him. I know it's weird and I don't know what it is, but like it's there in me. And I'm like, girl, Annie, if this were my sister, remember I have an older sister and she lives in Canada. If this were my sister and I was watching this on the show, I would book a flight back to Canada just to whoop her ass. Like, are you kidding me, girl? You are all that, and this is what you're settling for. Let me knock some sense into you because obviously you need help. Like, we're going to tussle because absolutely not. There's no way on God's green earth that I would allow my sister to be in this sort of a relationship. Like, there's no way. To me, there are no redeeming qualities to Kyle, you know, and just to see Annie be so like lacking in self-esteem that she's still trying to like find her way through this. And like, you know, it's sad to me. It's sad. Like, the girl does not have sisters or something. Like, does she not have parents? Does she not have like siblings, like brothers, like someone to like tell her like, girl, this isn't it. Like, you can do better. Like, so weird. Anyway, you guys, again, I watched 90 Day Fiance and a bunch of my reality shows on Philo. I've got an affiliate link that you can use to sign up for a free trial, or you can sign up for a membership or whatever you want. You've got TLC, WeTV, OWN Network, MTV. I think there's A&E. There's over 70 different channels. There's a lot going on over there. So definitely make sure to give them a look. If you want to watch shows like 90 Day Fiance, if you want to watch Love After Lockup, the Teen Mom franchise, Jersey Shore, whatever you want, it is all there. And you know what? There's that new OWN Network show that I'm going to watch, the Never Have Mets or whatever. That's going to be my next little watch on my Philo. Again, I've got an affiliate link in the description box that you can use to sign up as well. Meanwhile, let me know what you thought about this episode of 90 Day Fiance Love in Paradise. And as usual, we will be chatting in the comment section. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.